Oh, no, I got it. When you said that. No, I got another one. Me?
I just thought,
Hey there. 10 a.m. Wednesday?
What are you doing tomorrow?
Well, we have, I got an 8 o'clock stamping. And 1 o'clock, I'm like that. What do you want to give like those background? I want to send. Really, you ready?
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, May 6th regular City Council meeting. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Alderman Devine.
Here.
Alderman Glab.
Here.
Alderman McHenry.
Here.
Alderman Santee.
Here.
Alderman Schaefer.
Here.
Mayor Jett.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask Attorney David McCardle to step up front to give the oaths of office to the following candidates elected in the April 2nd, 2019 consolidated election. We're going to start off with Alderman.
He's got his own order.
Oh, you can go ahead.
I get to choose.
All right. David's got it.
Why don't we go with Sue Miller first? Ward 7.
She doesn't get to. I thought you'd go alphabetical.
Is that not alphabetical?
No.
Sorry. Raise your right hand, please, and say after me. I, Sue Miller,
I, Sue Miller,
having been duly elected to the office of Alderwoman,
having been duly elected to the office of Alderwoman,
Ward 7,
Ward 7,
in the city of McHenry, County of McHenry,
in the city of McHenry, County of McHenry,
State of Illinois,
State of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Alderwoman, Ward 7,
of the office of Alderwoman, Ward 7,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
And Bobby Bainey, Ward 4. And if you could raise your right hand. I, Bobby Bainey,
I, Bobby Bainey,
having been elected to the office of Alderwoman,
having been elected to the office of Alderwoman,
Ward 4,
Ward 4,
in the city of McHenry,
in the city of McHenry,
County of McHenry, State of Illinois,
County of McHenry, State of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Alderwoman, Ward 4,
for the office of Alderwoman, Ward 4,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. If you could sign that and get to the deputy clerk, that would be good. How about Pat Devine? This is Ward 6, correct?
Yes, sir.
And repeat after, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Patrick Vine,
I, Patrick Vine,
having been elected to the office of Alderman Ward 6
having been elected to the office of Alderman Ward 6
in the city of McHenry, county McHenry,
in the city of McHenry, county of McHenry,
state of Illinois,
state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Alderman Ward 6
in the office of Alderman Ward 6
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. And the oldest guy, Andy Glad. I meant senior. Senior Alderman, Andy Glad. Ward 2.
Wait a minute, I should get my cane.
7 times,
7 times?
7 trips.
Seven turkeys.
I should be able to just do it by heart.
Yep. Okay, if you'd raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Andy Glad,
I, Andy Glad,
having been duly elected to the office of Alderman,
having been duly elected to the office of Alderman,
Ward 2,
Ward 2,
in the city of McHenry,
in the city of McHenry,
county of McHenry,
county of McHenry,
state of Illinois,
state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and the ordinances of the city of McHenry,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Alderman,
of the office of Alderman,
Ward 2,
Ward 2,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
I'd like to say congratulations to all 4 of you. Welcome to the city council, and some of you obviously are returning, but I'm confident over the next 2 years of my remaining term is going to be a great 2 years, and we're going to get a lot done. So I look forward to the next 2 years. Is there any of you that would like to say anything before I move on with the agenda, since you have family and friends here? Is there any? Sue, Bobby?
It's your only opportunity to.
I mean, this is it. The floor is yours. After that, you don't get it.
They
so.
won't be here.
Want me to say something?
Sure.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Obviously, as a new council person, it's always great to see members of our community. And of course, members of my family are in the back, and I thank you all for coming. And thank you for your support, because without the support of family and friends, you can't offer yourself to the city and to its residents. So loving kisses to each and every one of you. Thank you for being here.
Pat, would you like to say anything? Bobby?
I'm gonna take all Pat's time. No, I just want to say thank you to all my family and friends, and to our former alderwomen and aldermen who served before us. It's really an honor to sit up here, and I'm really looking forward to the work we're going to do over the next couple of years. Thank you.
Alderman Glum?
I
I'm
just
gonna
want
give you 1 minute though. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
1 minute from what time?
Starting now.
I'll keep it short and sweet, which doesn't happen very often, but just want to thank the residents of Ward 2 that showed the faith in me, and I swore up there that I would discharge the duties of Alderman Ward 2, but also Alderman is senior Alderman as well as Alderman for the entire city, like I always have. So again, thank you to everybody.
Well, at this time, you are not obligated to sit here through this meeting. If you would like to, that's fine. But if you would like to get up and head out, you are more than welcome to do so at this time.
And they all.
Does anybody want to stay?
I gotta give credit to the high schoolers that actually stayed after I signed. I appreciate that. Did one of them leave? Two of them?
Three.
Oh, three of them. Perfect. That's great. All right. Thank you two for staying. All right, let's get on with the agenda here. We're gonna move on with the consent agenda. Any members? Oh, let's go ahead and public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any council members that would like to pull any items from this consent agenda? Alderman Santee?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item 6H for discussion and then voting on it as an individual item.
6H is an N, right?
6H.
Okay. Any other items? All right. Any other items by council? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, 6B for discussion.
Okay. At this time, I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve items 6A through 6G, and then, no, 6A, 6C through 6G, and then 6I through, O. Alderman Santee?
So moved.
Second? Alderman Schaefer?
Second.
Discussion on these items. Alderman Santee?
Just real quick, just so on 6C, I see where, you know, it's speaking to our city administrator earlier. Monty Johnson's done this position prior. And we're okay. Dorothy she fills a lot of shoes with staff, and we're comfortable with her in regards to this alternate position.
How long has Dorothy done that, Doug, is the backup?
She's done several years.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you. Appreciate the information. That's all I have.
Any other comments, questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bainey?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Mahevic?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
The item pulled by Alderman Glab was 6B, regarding a resolution approving a budget officer for the city of McHenry and appointment of Carolyn Lynch, finance director, as the budget officer. Go ahead and have a discussion on this item first. Alderman Glab?
Well, I just basically pulled it because I wanted to watch you stutter as A through G.
It worked.
But I think to some extent, I'd like it out in the public as far as the explanation of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
So in 6A was the budget officer finance system. Basically all it is we've already been doing a budget for as long as I've been here. I don't know how long before that. We've also always done an appropriation ordinance. We don't need to do both, and since you already approve a budget, we're just gonna use that as our legal authority to spend money instead of the appropriation ordinance.
Question I've got, number one, we don't need to do both because of the statute that was changed back in 1976?
Correct.
Or is it because of the fact that we became home rule and never changed it when we became home rule?
No, we don't have to be home rule, but you do have to pass this ordinance in order to use the budget system.
Okay. My reservation more than anything else is we look at the budget, we see where we spend our money and everything else, and the appropriation ordinance to some extent is an exact dollar amount that we wind up appropriating for property taxes. And basically that's what gets sent to the county, correct?
No.
No.
No?
No, the appropriation
Separate.
ordinance is the ordinance over which you cannot spend.
Okay.
So that's why we take the budget dollars, and usually it's a multiplier to get to a figure. It's kind of an arbitrary number actually, and you can't go above that limit without certain motions.
Right. So what really changes other than the fact that we don't do it twice?
Nothing.
Okay. Then, what is the exact terminology then for the exact tax dollars when we appropriate that every year?
It's the levy.
The levy. So this does not change that like Monday? Okay,
No.
then I don't have any other reservations. I appreciate the comments.
Anyone else have a comment or any questions on this? See none? Look for a motion. Alderman Glab?
I'll make a motion to pass as presented.
A second? Alderman Mahavik?
I'll second.
Last time for discussion on this item? See none? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Glab?
Yes?
Alderman Mahavik?
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Beatty?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Another item that was pulled by Alderman Santee was 6H is McHenry, authorization for the development and execution of a use license agreement with the Chicago Pedal Boats for the use of municipal property for the operation of pedal boats. Derek, you want to present this item, or should I just go to?
Just, yeah,
Sorry.
just-
Alderman Santee? you wanna
Yeah,
go ahead?
if it's, Mr. Esposito, is he in the audience, so I
Yeah.
can
Yes,
have him
I
step
am.
to the podium?
If you come up to the podium and
Thank
state
you
your
very
name and
much.
address for public record, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Esposito. People call me Captain Tony. I represent Chicago Pedal Boats. I want to thank the members of the City Council, Mayor, Alderwomen, Aldermen, and Mr. McCardle. And I've been a resident here in McHenry since 2005, so I have a real interest in bringing pedestrians and visitors to the Riverwalk and to Miller's Point, and to see McHenry become a destination for family fun, and to help the businesses that have already been here and help them grow and expand. So we have a concept of bringing a pedal boat, which is an interactive type of pontoon boat, where people actually pedal to make it move, but it's a it has a certificate of inspection from the United States Coast Guard. So you have to have a master captain, like myself, operating the boat. We're gonna have to have a deckhand, and we're gonna have to have a lot of things that are involved to get that certificate of inspection. I have some other things in detail if you're interested in it. But really what it's about is I have a real interest in seeing growth in the city of McHenry, and I think that this could be something that would be a tremendous draw and be good for all the businesses. I've talked to several of them. They're all interested in participating, and we would like the city council to approve it. And at this point, since it's a venture, we're very open to suggestions and different things that the city of McHenry would like to have input in. So I answer any questions you may have, or I don't know if any of you have seen the boat itself, or you've seen the letter that I drafted to the mayor. Whatever you'd like to ask me about, I'd be happy to try to answer for it.
Thank you, Tony. Alderman Santee?
Mr. Esposito, you do this type of work in the city of Chicago, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Briefly explain that. I mean, you've been doing it now, this is your second year there?
Right, so in order to achieve a license, you have to have 360 days of sea time on the body of water that you're operating the boat. And then, of course, if you're gonna do it Chicago River and Lake Michigan, you have to have additional days. So I'm semi-retired, I'm a practicing attorney, I still hold a license, but this is something that I have a passion for. I love boating, I always did. I have a boat on the water. Folks may have seen it. It's a pretty, yellow, red, orange boat, and I love, boating. So this was a way for me to kind of go into retirement a little bit and also, have a little fun doing it, so.
Okay. Also, the boat itself it describes here as a pedal boat, and you're only looking at doing one this year, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we think that the interest and the interaction where people, the boat actually is a pontoon boat. It's operated by myself with a motor, but it is additionally propelled by people that pedal. People don't have to pedal if they don't want to. They sit around a bar, so to speak, 5 on each side. The boat gonna have an occupancy rating for 14 people, so there's a chance for people to sit at the bar and pedal or not. And we think that it's gonna pair really well with the local businesses here. So rather than just have a boat that you could just sit and go for a ride, this has this interaction and socialization component that you don't normally get on a normal pontoon boat.
And yourself or a different captain, someone will be actually manning the boat with these people at all times?
Absolutely, yes, you can't just have anybody. You have to have a documented roll of people that have been certified by the Coast Guard with the company that have been authorized to operate the boat. This morning, I was on the Chicago, I was actually at Diversity Harbor at some of our other boats, getting our certificate of inspection for other boats. So it's a pretty involved process that you have to go through. Not only does the vessel have to be stable, you have to have documentation for the vessel itself, but the crew, and you have to meet certain things like fire drills and, you know, hopefully never happens, man overboard, something like that. You have to be prepared for all those type of things. And you have to drill, you know, I would be responsible, I have to drill anybody that I choose to be a deckhand. They have to be familiar with the processes and procedures, and all that has to be in the boat and open for inspection by any member that would be patrolling the river. So it could be the Conservation Police, it could be the Coast Guard, it could be McHenry Police, whatever. They could ask to stop and see your credentials and ask you, so what's your plan for fire in case there was a fire? What would be your plan in case somebody did fall over and happen? What would be the plan if something were to happen to the vessel and it wouldn't be able to operate? So you have to have a documented plan, and you have to show that you implemented and practiced certain drills so that, you know, safety is the utmost. And the other thing is you have to have certain things on the vessel as far as type 1 life vest, and you have to have fire prevention things, and you have to have alternate sound making devices. You have to have, I know my way around the chart, I mean the chain like the back of my hand. You have to have, you know, actual paper charts, two-way radios, you know, different things like that to make sure that everybody's gonna have a good time and there's never gonna be a question about whether somebody's not gonna be safe.
I guess, and one, to know the rest of the council, but the one other thing I just want to say is that since the inception of the Riverwalk, there have been, not my constituents, but just citizens around the area, in the city and outside the city, that would love a concept like this. Not necessarily maybe this pedal boat, but this is definitely one option that we can offer to the people here in the community and also people who are visiting. And it's been discussed for years. It was such a pleasant surprise to have Mr. Esposito show up probably a couple months ago in regards to suggesting this to us. When I read the supplement tonight, the two things I just want to make sure we have in detail or have something finalized would be, you know, is there going to be a pier option? Are we just going to designate a certain pier here? And then also the final statement on the supplement says, you know, needing some insurance and liability requirements. So those two things I want to make sure that are, you know, resolved between whomever, if it's Mr. Esposito, Mr. McCardle, or in staff also. I want to make sure those are taken care of prior to ever having a boat out there. I know the Memorial Day weekend is right around the corner. I'd love to see them out there on Memorial Day weekend. As a matter of fact, I would have loved to see them out there on Memorial Day weekend probably about 8-10 years ago. So, with that being said, I want to open it up to any other questions. I'd like to see that done, and if so, I mean, I'm willing to, you know, please let the rest of the council speak, but I'm willing to accept this, but I'd like to have it come back to us with some finalization of pier and insurance and liability requirements. And that's all I have right now. I'll leave it to any other.
Alderman Devine?
Thanks for coming, Tony.
Sure.
I just had a couple questions. Is this going to be limited to no wake zone, or is this going to be outside of the no wake zone?
No, the boat is stable to go outside the no wake zone. It's a 10-foot beam boat. It has pontoons that are, the diameter is much larger than your average pontoon boat. And it has to meet the standards of vessel stability. So essentially you'll have, if you had everybody on the boat and additional weight all on one side of the boat, would that vessel be safe and wouldn't, you know, tip over? So yeah, it's more than enough, you know, stability to, you know, take it beyond the no weight carrier.
And also hours of operation, if you have any is?
Well, we'd like to keep the boat operable every day, as much as possible. We're envisioning.
After dark and,
Well, we would like to have, you know, walk on, you know, walk up and pay and walk on kind of opportunities for people that are visiting. We also want to work with the local restaurants where they might say, can we rent the boat out on a Tuesday night because we have a retirement party and we want to pair with you, you know, something that we're doing in the restaurant and offer this as well to, you know, people that are renting out the room or whatever. So, but we want to make it exclusive to McHenry. We want to work with only the McHenry businesses. We're not interested in marketing the boat down the river with another location. Not that it's a bad thing, but we want to make it exclusive to McHenry.
that's all I have.
Alderman Schaefer?
Yeah, I had a couple questions, kind of carrying over what Alderman Santee said too. So would there be a schedule at all, or reservations? How is it all walk-up business?
No, we're open to both. So we have a website, we want to direct, we already have a website, and we want, as soon as we get the understanding that we've got an agreement from the city as a go-ahead, we're gonna also offer on our website the opportunity to pre-plan and buy tickets ahead of time. So that, and then we wanna try to arrange a schedule. It's a new venture, so we're open to whatever seems to work. It could be that the boat is, for example, on Monday nights when there's the car show. A lot of things around Monday nights are not available or not open. We want to be there. We want to draw public maybe after the car show or whatever. So that could be a great night or a great period of time from maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 8, where there's a lot of walk-on traffic. It's a Monday night. Tuesday night might be a little slower night. That may be a promotion night where we do something with a local, you know, restaurant or bar or something like that. So we're trying to do both things, basically.
But we don't know where it's gonna be docked or anything. So, I mean, my feeling is that issue and the concern with the liability and where people would board, are people gonna make stops? Are they gonna get off somewhere else, or
No.
do we do that?
Well, we can easily and safely dock the vessel and board at the city pier right by Buddy Z's, assuming that we can get under the bridge. If we can make it under the bridge, there's enough room there to make a nice, you know, circular turn, and people would board on the starboard side. If that is not available because of height, we can certainly operate the boat from Miller's Point, and the outside pier would be the most, you know, convenient for people to board. And even if there's construction, we can work something out where people could walk around the construction.
My question was,
I'm
would you
sorry.
stop at other locations?
No, we weren't really planning on that. We were trying to do this as a way to just take people out on the water for a certain amount of time, maybe an hour cruise, maybe a 90-minute cruise, and just go up and down the river. We weren't really thinking as a taxi because there's this interaction component of pedaling. But, you know, having said that, it's a possibility, but you have to then look at what all these other restaurants and places have as far as piers and docking, whether they're gonna be a safe mode to get people in and out.
Correct, I think
Right
there's
now,
a lot of questions
Yeah.
that are not answered yet. That
Yeah.
would be my concern. And then liability for us if they were to get off somewhere else, what's our liability of the passengers, both on and off the boat? I guess if you know what those answers would be.
If someone gets hurt badly enough, we're all gonna be targets. If we license this boat, that's why we buy insurance. That's why we'll have an indemnification or his insurance or whatever. You know, we'll try and cover that liability, but you can't eliminate it. We might have immunities that apply, we might have good defenses, but if it's a serious enough injury, my guess is the city will be dangerous.
To answer your question, we don't intend to really have people leave the boat at any other location. That was not the original intent. There was some discussion of running a kind of an Uber that goes from bar to bar. That's not what we really planned on doing with this particular pedal boat. So once people would get on the boat, they would know what they were getting, either an hour cruise or a 90-minute cruise, and they would be on the boat as we would go up and down the river, whatever direction that, you know, we're doing, and then return them to the same location. That would be what we're really targeting for the first year.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add this quick, is really the extent of our agreement and what we talked about was really the use of the pier. And that was, we're not trying to get into his business at all, it's his business completely. Our license agreement, we just see, would to say that you could use a slip on Miller Point Pier to be able to get on and off. And that was kind of the intent. We don't wanna delve into what he's doing, let him do his thing, just give him the ability to dock that there and kind of have that home base. The pier next to Buddy's is actually privately owned, so that would be, and that would be a deal location as well, as long as we can work with that private ownership. The city pier at Miller Point is another high visibility, and obviously the construction is a big thing that we have to work around right now, but when we talk about a license agreement, that's what we had intended it to be, just the use of that slip on the pier.
The exclusive use, right?
Well, yeah, during certain periods of time, but we want to be able to, have people get on the boat and return, so that we'd have to devise, we have a pretty good idea how we can do it, that you'd have to devise a way where you would have a certain area, let's say we're using the pier at Miller Point, it's longer than the boat, but we would devise an area where we would say, parking for pedal boat only, so we would be able to bring passengers back and have a place so they could.
Right, but I'm talking about overnight. It stays there, right?
Well, it can also be moved. I mean, it can be moved to a more discreet area as possible. If there's another city location, it's possible.
Well, these things have all got to be worked out. This is the first time I'm talking about this with Mr. Esposito, so this all has to be worked out. The main thing we need to know is the city council interested, and then we'll try and, move the discussion along. But there's several issues. The police have their issues, the staff has theirs, and we'll get all those resolved if we can.
Rob?
Yeah, I was gonna just say that I think it's an exciting venture, there's no doubt about it, but there's still so many unanswered questions. And to rush to say, well, it's gotta be open by Memorial Day, if this is successful a year from now, is anybody gonna remember when he started, whether it was Memorial Day or 2 weeks after or what have you? Granted, Memorial Day is a better weekend maybe to get started, but I think this council has to look at protecting the city, and as far as approving something tonight, I think without everything ironed out, I think that meets the best interest of the city.
No, the only authorization here was for the development and execution of we haven't even developed it yet.
Correct.
We just wanted direction to enter into those discussions tonight.
We're open to whatever makes the
But it says
city.
development and execution.
Right, but then, we haven't developed it yet, so we need to develop it.
Right, but if we approve this according to this motion,
Yeah, we're not looking for that.
but that's what's in the wording.
I didn't
so.
got that.
I know you did.
There's somebody else.
So then, the person that wrote it should be speaking.
We're just looking for authority, I can tell you.
It was our intent to bring this forward, and if there's comments that you see that are glaring holes, and obviously there are some certain things that we're looking for, but, we try to keep it as simple as possible, similar to my first comments. We're not trying to overcomplicate this, and if there are issues with, all right, we don't want it at Miller Point Pier, then let's talk about that, or we don't want to go there overnight, then let's talk about that. Like, from my point of view, and working with Mayor Jett and Administrator Moorfield, it was just trying to, if there's major points that we can build into this, I mean, the insurance is a given, and I say that because that's it should be easy. When I understand that's the meat of the agreement, is nobody wants to get sued, they don't want to get sued, we don't want to get sued, so that's the backbone of this thing. But then the logistics, it should be a simpler thing, at least in our eyes, that's what we looked at it.
I mean, we've had similar type of, maybe not similar to this, but types of uses within our parks and everything else, and we're usually looking for $1 million indemnity or something on that.
Well, this one will probably be a little bit more than that, based on what it is, but that's something that we would typically, when somebody does have an event in our parks, it is that $1 million, and then just the city listed as additionally insured on that policy. Because their policy, we're just listed as additionally insured. So similar, since they'll be either parking at Miller Point or traversing the pier, traversing city property, we'd be listed as additionally insured. Once they get on that boat,
Right. Well, yeah, but see, the thing is once you have an agreement with them, matter where it happens, it's still gonna be that,
It's bad enough, David's right, everybody's gonna get sued if it's bad enough.
and again, we're in an age where anybody can sue anybody for any reason, you know, at any given time, pretty much, so.
So that's why it said execution, we thought we could, if there was major points that we could hit and not overcomplicate this, but I certainly, certainly understand whatever council's wishes are, and we'll bring forward, work that out.
Mr. Esposito, what is the official name of your company?
Well, we're gonna do business up here, hopefully, as McHenry Pedal Boat. We now have a name of Chicago Pedal Boat.
Okay, because I tried to look it up in the state of Illinois Secretary of State, and I didn't see anything listed,
Yeah.
that's why I kind of.
Yeah, it's registered ChicagoPedalBoats.com, that's how it's registered.
Well, not in the Secretary of State, there's another name.
Oh. I'm not the owner, I'm not the actual owner of the
There's-
company.
Pedal and Pour.
It might be.
Peddling.
Wasn't it Pedal and Pour was the?
Yeah, Pedal and Pour, I apologize, that's right. Pedal
If you
and
look up
Pour,
pedal
that's what it
and pour,
is.
P-O-U-R.
Pedaling forward.
Yeah.
P-O-U-R,
I'm sorry.
pour,
P-O-U-R, yeah.
pedal
I'm sorry.
and pour.
I knew that, I just forgot.
Okay.
Would you have any other questions, Alderman, for me? I'd be happy to try to help you.
No, really, I mean, I guess to some extent, I'd like to see an agreement and everything else come forward, you know. And I don't see why in 2 weeks that couldn't all be ironed out. But I think tonight, as far as, I don't even know if we need a motion, we just need direction from the council as far as the fact that we want to move forward.
I'll be happy to work with Attorney McCardle, whatever it takes.
Motion to direct the staff to move forward.
So that's a good motion.
That's a good motion.
Good job.
Just to direct staff to move forward, so we're not.
Negotiations.
We're not.
Negotiation, not execution.
We'll bring it back on the 20th.
I just did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone second.
So who's the second?
I'll second that
Alderman
motion.
Santee. All right, discussion, any other points from council that you're concerned about? Besides insurance, peer location? No? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first or the second.
Oh, Alderman Glad? Glad first, seconded by Alderman Santee.
Okay, sorry. Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderwoman Bainey,
Yes.
Alderman Devine,
Yes.
Alderman Mahedic,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Well, thank
And we'll
you.
keep in touch.
We'll be in
So
touch.
I have freedom to talk to Mr. McCardle then, I guess. That's gonna be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15
I wanted
minutes.
to
Talk to him before.
10 minutes, yeah.
You're the only one that'll do that, but yeah.
Okay.
He'll send you the bill though, I'll guarantee
Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your
Tony.
time. And we're very excited about making this really a nice thing for me.
Thank you, Tony.
Appreciate it. Take care. The next item on the agenda is 7A, action item, is discussion to approve a final plat of subdivision for McCollum Place, Lot 1 re-subdivision. Doug, can you please present this item?
Thank you, Mayor Jett. Council is being asked to approve the final plat of McCollum Place, Lot 1 re-subdivision, located at the southeast corner of McCollum Lake Road and Richmond Road, Illinois Route 31.
Thank you. I'm going to open up for discussion by council. See none? Alderman Glad?
Yeah, basically, do we know what the cross easement access points are on this property? Do they have cross easement access? I would think if they're buying this property, they would have to have an access there somewhere.
Well, everything's on the plat. I did not see a cross-access easement onto lot 2.
See, I would not want to see, now they're gonna say they need another curb cut. If we're gonna subdivide this, there's gotta be a cross easement, access, to, the main lot.
Well, there's not gonna be any more curb cuts.
Well, but if there's no cross access easement, how do they get in and out?
They get in off Richmond Road or.
The lot is owned by, correct? Is owned by Big R. Right?
Not both lots,
I'm sorry?
not both lots. Lot 1 is.
Lot 1 is owned by Big R. What about the parking lot? That was part of the Target property. So I would take it that lot 1, as well as the parking lot, is owned by Big R. They sell off lot 2 without any kind of cross-access easements, then they're gonna be asking for a curb cut on 31 because of the fact that they have no access in and out.
There's nothing preventing anybody from using the curb cuts. I don't understand.
Well, it's simple and easy, we don't want another curb cut.
There's nothing preventing somebody from using the existing curb cuts.
Well, there's no cross-access easement.
But they can use the curb cuts now.
Why? Because it's owned by one owner. But if you take and you have lot 2 separated, hey, we've been through this over here with other problems when we were trying to get Panera and everything else. You never know. That's why everything's got to be spelled out.
Hey Chad, can you help with this?
I'm not familiar with the items on the plat. I am checking with the surveyor that worked on it.
Okay.
I can bring that up with them, but I mean, there's no, the curb cuts are existing, and there's nothing, anybody can use the curb cuts now. The outlot 2 is exclusive of the curb cuts.
There's no reason why, if for some reason there was a problem that Big R, if they're the owner of the parking lot, couldn't just put bumpers all the way around and say, no, you can't use it. And I wouldn't have a problem approving it tonight with the caveat that it's approved, provided that the cross-access easements are provided.
That's fine with me.
You know, I just think that needs to be put in there, because you don't want to wind up in a bind where whoever would buy lot 2, for whatever reason, then would say, well, I don't have any access easement.
The owner of lot 2 wouldn't want lot 2 without that.
I'm sorry?
The owner of lot 2 wouldn't want lot 2 without it, without cross-access.
Well, you know, things slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to look at protecting ourselves rather than, you know, anything else. And if they didn't have an access on the 31 and they didn't want to give them cross-access easement, if it was missed, then it could wind up to where they could lobby the state to get an access. You know, because they would be landlocked. And I don't want that to happen. In other words, we want to see lot 2 where, when it's developed, that it is just pretty much how that property works right now as far as the entrances, you know, off of McCollum Lake and Richmond Road, with the access points that are there now. We don't want to add any extra. And I think to some extent that's what we need to cross out. And that's all I ask, is that the verbiage is in there so that that would eliminate any reservations about that possibly happening.
We can do that.
I understand.
The rest of it, you know, I hate to see a gas station in there or something, but you never know what might pop up. You know, I mean, they sell the property, who knows, they could sell it to one developer that all of a sudden decides to bring somebody in, you know, and develops it or whatever. So that's called capitalism. So
Correct.
that's the only reservation I've got.
Any other comments, questions by council? I'd like to open up for public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, at this time, looking for a motion to approve 7A as presented, contingent on cross-access. Alderman Schaefer?
I'll make that motion.
Seconded. Alderman Santi?
I'll second.
Discussion on this item? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Schaefer?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bainey?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Mahavik?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Abstain. I was previously on the recommending body and wish to not vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is discussion items. The first one is 8A is city council committees. Derek, I'll go ahead and let you get started on that.
Sure, so I'll just start the conversation. You know, typically every year when we come around to the annual appointments, which was done at the last meeting, you know, the mayor, whether it was Mayor Lau before, the mayor before that, or now Mayor Jett, begins the discussions on filling the committees. The city currently has 4. They're defined as standing committees in the municipal code. That's finance and personnel, community development, public works, and parks and recreation. And we've had, those have been committees of 3 members for as long as I know, certainly the 7 years that I've been here and for years before that. This year, with new council members coming on board, the mayor and I had a discussion and started a discussion about appointments and committee composition and all that, and just wanted to delay the discussion to be able to have it with the full city council about committees overall, about the, and then we can move on to composition of the committees if that's the way council chooses to go. But I guess I just wanted to throw out and give and have council give some thought or to spur the discussion, I guess, for the various ways that the committee and committee work can be handled. Over the last couple of years, we've handled committees more like the true definition of standing committees, whereas there's been a committee chairperson and 2 committee members, so 3-person committees, and those committees have had a regular defined meeting dates where those dates were set throughout the year. And that's been over the last probably 3 to 4 years. Before that, they were handled not really like ad hoc committees, but more like as needed committees when topics came up, except for community development, which Director Martin and at the time Alderwoman Condon were diligent about having topics that were scheduled monthly or every other month throughout the year that were specific topics that either staff brought up as needed to be dealt with through some of the various guidelines that the city has, or council directed to the committee as items that needed to be dealt with, you know, that fell under their purview. And then finance and personnel typically met mostly around the budget time after January 1st through the end of the year, without, at least in my time here, without a lot of other meetings throughout the year except for those alone. So those are the kind of the 2 different ways that the committees, as we currently have them defined, have met over the 7 years at least that I've been here with the city of McHenry. There's no defined goals or objectives for the committees in the city code, so the committees are defined by name, but no, like, you know, what are the jobs of the committees, or what's their purview other than what's in their name. So that being said, we've also started over the last 3 or 4 years to handle some items at the city council level, where we've, like this item right here that we're having is a discussion item that's placed on a city council agenda for discussion by the full city council. And what that allows us to do, and this is how we handled it also in my previous community, but that allows us to get through the regular agenda items that we have through a consent agenda and regular agenda, and then be able to utilize as much time as we need to discuss specific issues that may be more flowing or input from all the council members, staff, or even the public, you know, to kind of get direction from council on an issue. And again, it's not a vote, but it's a consensus, a direction from a majority of the council on this is the way that we would like to go. Another alternative that I think we've used in the past, I know that we have here, whether we've called it this or not, is a committee of the whole meetings, and I know other communities use it also. And a committee of the whole by nature is a discussion. It's kind of a meeting formed for the sake of having a discussion, so like a discussion item, where it could be either a meeting that's held before a city council meeting or held on a completely different day than a city council meeting, or in lieu of a city council meeting. I've seen it done a lot of different ways in other communities, whereby you have a topic or list of topics that the council only uses to discuss items, like the discussion item right now that we're talking about, and work through those, and again, provide direction, reach consensus and provide direction to staff to bring back some matter of policy or guidelines or whatever to be able to formally vote on as part of a council meeting. Or the recommendation could be go do some additional research and bring it back so we can discuss it some more. So there's a variety of ways to handle committee type issues. And before, I know that Wayne, before he went through, the mayor went through the committee appointments process, asked for my input on it, and I was kind of all over the board, just like I just was in that explanation with him on the advantages and disadvantages of different ways to handle committee type of work. And we thought we'd bring it to council for discussion before making any formal appointments to committees. And again, to provide the new council with an opportunity to have input on that.
So before I give my input, I'll go ahead and have you all kind of give us your input and discussion on this item, just to kind of give us some direction on where you think this should go. So, Alderman Glenn?
I have no problem with the committee of the wholes, but to do away with the committees, I think would be an injustice. I think to some extent, we need those committees, but we don't need them to be regimental as far as every month or whatever. But I think there are times when it gets to be such a big topic for the entire council to talk about, even in the committee of the whole, that sometimes we send it to committee to find out more information that maybe we've discussed and we need to have in order to get the right decision. And so maybe those committees are there so that if we need to look at something, we send it to that committee, and then those committees are set already for somebody to look at. So that, again, like I say, they're not regimental as far as that they're being held all the time. But when the council decides we need more input, that's what we, if the council decides to send it to a committee, then that committee's already for it.
Thank you. Alderwoman Miller?
So in my other life, I work with many entities that have embraced the committee of the whole as the discussion phase of any action to be taken, and then brought the action item to the directors. And committees are used more as a task force or a deep dive into any discussion that needs to bring brought to the committee of the whole. That seems to work real well, that you're not duplicating the conversations of the chair, that the deep dive does the homework, brings it to the committee of the whole does the deep discussion, and then when we get to this chamber, it really is an action item that we're all fully convinced is either the right or the wrong. So most of that committee of the whole has always been discussion, and very lively discussion. So I'm in favor of changing to that format. I've participated in it, it works well, and it allows you to do the homework.
Thank you. Alderman Schaefer?
The committees that I've been involved with over the last 14 years have been where that homework kind of has been done. I like the fact that I think there's been great participation from the members of those, whether it's 3 persons or 3 people, or the other aldermen or other women decide to show up for those. That's been great for those committees to do the homework, to do the work, and when it gets to here, it's more or less just for a vote. I kind of tend to agree with Alderman Glad that I don't really want to see those go away, only because when we've done committee of the whole meetings for certain things too, it doesn't seem to be as lively of a discussion with all parties getting involved, but that's just my opinion. I think it seems to be more at that smaller level meeting, more detailed information, more detailed conversation, and more constituent opinion comes out than it does during our committee of the whole type meetings. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other comments, Alderman Glenn?
Yeah. One thing about committees though is the fact that, Alderman Schaefer brought up constituents. Sometimes they're a little more inhibited to speak up to council, and of course, in most of our meetings, it's just a one-way conversation where we listen to and we don't respond. The reason for that is we had an attorney at one time tie us up for, well, actually before I was even on the council, for like 2.5 hours on a 10-minute input. So that's when it was decided that we wouldn't respond to that, and then they just direct people to get a hold of somebody. The committees, though, it gives them a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere to discuss whatever needs to be discussed. And maybe if somebody brings up something that we feel is worth to the council to discuss, maybe that's when we send that to a committee as well, a smaller committee for them to discuss, to where they feel comfortable in an atmosphere where they, you know, they can easily, discuss whatever their problem is. So I think that's kind of would be a good thing. One thing though that I worry about is as far as, we get too far away from the finance committee, because I really think that's an important committee that, we've found, especially in the last 4 years with McHenry, that, there were a lot of changes and a lot of things that were redirected, because of the committee that we had. So, that's all.
Thank you. Any other input by council? Alderman Devine?
I agree with Alderman Glad and Alderman Schaefer with the smaller committees.
With the committee of the whole.
I agree as well.
So when you,
So-
I have a, I'm sorry,
Right.
next.
Alderman Sandy?
What I'm hearing is, and I do like the committee format, but I really feel we've made some steps, some progressive steps in the last 2-3 years with putting more discussion items in our agendas, our normal Monday night agendas, which they've been good discussions. Committee of the whole is something that we could probably focus in on some larger items, elements that really concern, really big concerns of the city. But back to the 3-person committees, we can always have those assigned, have those people in place when the need comes up for those meetings to be called. Whether it comes from the mayor, whether it comes from the administrator, or it comes from us at the end of a meeting where we think there's a subject that needs to go somewhere, start somewhere. And so that maybe there's committees set, but there's no specific dates in regards to those committee meetings being held until we really have some items on there. Especially, and just to progressively go into that, just real quick, is that back to finance committee. Let's face it, come January, when staff and administrators come to that committee, now there's a lot of, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of, meat in there that needs to be done, and needs to be, looked at. So I can understand it, there's definitely gonna be some meetings at that time. And when there's certain things, economic development, public works, parks and rec, things that are up, we put those dates, we have to have them out, 48 hours, correct? Yeah. And I hope that's understandable, but that's my thinking.
Thank you. Derek?
Yeah, all I wanted to mention is, this is Derek's 2 cents worth on it now. I kind of laid out is that, I think it can be a progressive, and I think that's what I've heard from a lot of people, a progressive approach to it, where we've used discussion items to, like this item tonight, where it may not have been appropriate to take up a totally separate night for a topic, that we could throw a couple of discussion items on, at least to introduce, and the consensus from council and direction could be, we need to talk about it more at a bigger level, so let's schedule a separate committee of the whole meeting where we can commit a whole meeting as the council to discuss this item, like when we were in the Meyer-Lafarge discussions, where we scheduled separate meetings on at least a couple of occasions just to deal with that issue. We call them special meetings. They're really committee of the whole type of meetings to get input and discussion on those, and then still have the committees, so it can be a progressive approach with the discussion items, the opportunity, knowing that we can schedule a committee of the whole meeting with direction from a majority of the council at any time, and still have the committees there, like Alderman Glab and a couple other council members have mentioned, where if there's specific tasks or work or interaction that needs to be done with staff and council members, that can still be done with reporting and recommendation brought back to the whole city council. So I didn't mean to come across, hope I didn't think I did, as one or the other or just one selection. I really think it can work well progressively with that type of approach, with kind of all of the above. just like Alderman Glab said, without the need to have regularly scheduled, regimented committee meetings where we're coming up with topics just for the sake of having topics, you know, which tends to happen in some cases.
Thank you, Derek. And that's my biggest concern, that we just don't have meetings scheduled every month just for the sake of having a meeting. So I mean, I think it's, you know, if we can do more committee of the wholes discussions like this. I mean, this started right after I was elected, and I think it's worked out great. I think we've gotten a lot done. I think it goes right to, it gets things done quicker than to have things go back and forth, back and forth. I mean, there's times, you know, where we do the budget. I mean, that's committee of the whole, you know, ad hoc or whatever the case may be. But I think if we do committees, and we have those committees, not on standing committees where we have to have something scheduled every single month, right? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up, years back, and it got changed, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever it was, to where we only have basically 2 council meetings per month. We used to always have first, second, and fourth, and no, first, second, and fourth, and then if there were 5, it was first, third, and fifth. And basically, we reduced the amount of council meetings at that time because it was felt that well, there wasn't enough to discuss because of the fact that we had all the committees. But if we go to a committee of the whole, actually, all we're doing is it's not like, gee, we're adding on an extra night for a council meeting. It would be a night that somebody would have to wind up sitting in for the committee here or there anyway. And if we have a committee of the whole, an extra one a month. Actually, for some that were on 2 committees, probably be one less meeting they'd have to worry about going through. You know, so really it's less of a burden for aldermen, and again, it would be better as far as total input from the entire council rather than just, let's face it, when it goes through a committee and then you get a committee recommendation, most of the council usually goes with that recommendation, and then it really kind of just takes away from the council's decision on that because the committee's already kind of decided. So I like what I had proposed earlier. Again, just using the committees, you know, just on an as-needed basis rather than regimental.
All right. Everyone else agree? Yes?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 8B, is a date for strategic planning session, June 24th. Derek?
Yeah, so some council members may remember that if you were here way back in 2013, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, it's crazy. We actually had the first strategic planning session that I participated in here, where we went to the McHenry Country Club, and it was a facilitated session. We came up with a strategic plan, and if you, the excerpts of the strategic plan are actually in the budget document, so if you haven't looked at it, go in and look at it, because it's kind of interesting. We've been able to complete over the last 6 years a number of projects that were identified to that strategic planning session. Now, some of them were softballs, I'll admit that, but other ones were, I think, we thought would be much more difficult. Examples are like the Central Wastewater Treatment Plant decommissioning. Back in 2013, we weren't even started down the path of knowing how that was going to be decommissioned and consolidated at the South Plant. As far as the funding part goes, the recreation center was there, the theater redevelopment of the downtown theater. While the city didn't have a direct input on that, we certainly helped lay the groundwork and work with people to get that done. The boat launch at Miller Riverfront Park. I mean, there's a lot of things there. Those are just some of the big ones. A lot of projects that we've been able to focus on and work through. And again, they came out of that strategic planning session. In 2016, we tried to do an in-house update of that session here in the council chambers. It probably didn't go as well because it wasn't facilitated or as facilitated as well. I facilitated it, so I can bash myself for that one. But we did nonetheless provide an update and incorporate at that time some input from some of the new council members that were on board. And now we're 3 more years down the road, and it's probably time to have another facilitated strategic planning session now that we have really from 2016, realistically 4 new council members that weren't able to participate in that session back in 16. And so I just talked to the mayor about a date, looking at the schedule with everything else going on. June 24th is an off Monday for a city council meeting. And what I would probably suggest is that we have it off-site. We can figure out a place to have it off-site and have a dinner and, you know, sandwiches or whatever, and start,
Steaks.
I would say, he's buying that, and start a little bit earlier, and typically these last in the 3-hour range, but really 3 to 4 hour range, but really focus in on an update. It shouldn't be as in-depth because we already have a strategic plan that we could work off of. We would all have some homework to do ahead of time, so we could focus in on it a lot faster than starting from scratch like we did back in 13. But that's just a date that I had looked at is the 24th.
Does
I'll go in
staff
May.
participate in that as well, so it's
Yeah.
council and participate?
Yeah, directors, yeah.
Anyone have any concerns with that, questions? Alderman Gleb?
Yeah, I mean, are we talking about bringing somebody in to pretty much hold this for us like we did the first time?
Yes, in fact, I already talked to Marcy.
I just tend to wonder if that really is throwing money out the door on that.
It's $900.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Maybe it won't be so bad. But I think to some extent, maybe we need a committee of the whole just to discuss where we're at and what everybody's concerns are, discussion, and maybe with that formulate where we want these discussions to go. You know, what are everybody's concerns? And even if it is one alderman's concern, then it should be brought into that discussion and formulate so that if we do have somebody come in to take and lead the way on this strategic planning session, that at least the topics are our topics that we feel we need to talk about.
Alderman Bailey?
Yeah, just to kind of address that, Andy, I've worked with Marcy, I think 3 or 4 times in strategic planning throughout McHenry County on various boards, and she doesn't hold those meetings without input from everyone that's going to be participating, so there's always questionnaires or SWOT analysis, things like that, and I am in full support of doing that. It has been so incredibly productive for every organization that we've worked with them to get a strategic plan set and action items and input from everybody involved, so I'm in full support of doing that.
Thank you. Alderman Santee?
Yeah, just follow up from Alderman Glad, just take it one step further. Let's, make sure that this lady gets the information, pass it on through staff or what have you. I know, I do recall that we had some information to fill out prior to that meeting, but how it's done, I mean, there's different options, different communication lines. Just get that information to the people who need to have it prior to that date, so that we all have a very good idea what the agenda is and what the main topics will be that evening.
Thank you. Alderwoman Miller?
Planning is awesome in a review and to see where you've been to where you're going. And it's nice when ideas just organically come out of that session, when you're having the discussion of this is where we were, this is what we did, and now how do we make it better? So it would be exciting to see the organic ideas that come out. And as I asked Derek in our orientation, do we have a 3, 5, 10, 15, 25-year plan? And he said not quite. So it would be nice to see where are we going to be in 25 years, and what does that look like today? So I would look forward to participating in that work product.
Perfect. So is everyone good with June 24th? Yes. Following up with that, I would ask that if we could cancel the following Monday meeting on July 1st. See, I just slipped that right in there. I'd like, versus having 3 weeks in a row.
Sure. On this special night, we could have just general, agenda items still too, right? If we need to do something that night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm comfortable with that.
Good with that? Nadia? Okay.
Bless you.
All right. Probably. Next item on the agenda is staff reports.
I have just one thing. Welcome to the new council members and also the returning council members. Congratulations. On May 20th, the next council meeting, I'm going to have a photographer come in here at 6:30 before the meeting. I'd like to get a group shot of the city council and also individual council member shots. We realized going back through the website that we either had really old pictures in there or non-existent pictures, and certainly not pictures of entire councils together, at least as far as we've been able to tell for some time. So I'm going to have an individual come in at 6:30, do some individual pictures and a group shot before the council meeting on the 20th. So if you could try to be here at 6:30, we'll knock that out. No attorney.
I was
gonna
gonna
say,
say,
yeah, no,
I
saw him moving
I saw
over
you
there.
flinch. That's why I said it.
Could you do an iPhone shot tonight?
No.
He gets new headshots every year.
We need a good picture.
Any other staff
Graphic
reports?
artist to put it in for you. I know one.
Any staff reports? Any others? That's it. City council comments? Is there any city council comments? Alderman Glenn?
Through my election, one of the things that I brought up more than anything else is infrastructure. Just want you to know that I'll be pounding on that quite a bit as far as roads the next couple of years. But we have matter of fact, I've got a meeting set up in 2 days, sit down with staff as far as reviewing the plans of the school. I wasn't in favor of the referendum that went through. I think there was a better choice that they could have made. However, it did go through, and I want to see that it becomes a stellar development over there, especially considering it's in my ward as well as my backyard. One of the major things that concerns me more than anything else is the amount of traffic that's going to create, and not just on Crystal Lake Road, but through the subdivisions. And probably, my ward is not the focal point of the city of McHenry, but it is the center of the city of McHenry. And my ward probably gets the worst amount of traffic cut through subdivisions because of the fact that if you want to get from point A to point B, somewhere in my ward, most of the time you have to get through, whether in Dartmoor, Oakwood, Royal, or whatever. And I think one of the things that we tried a couple years back is that speed sign on Dartmoor. And I really want to push to get more of those permanently put in certain areas. Like, we do have one going west on Dartmoor, we need one coming over the bridge going east. I think that would help alleviate some of the problems. But then we also need to look at, because, and I'm not just gonna pick on the school kids, but during the school hours of ingress and egress, mornings and late afternoons, there's a lot of speeding at that time going through the subdivisions. And it isn't always just the school kids. A lot of times it is the parents taking those kids to school. Unfortunately, they don't realize how much speed that they can pick up just going downhill in some of those streets, because some of them are a little hilly. That's what I like about those speed signs, is the fact, not that they're traps or anything else, but you'd be amazed how many people have told me that as they're going down the road, they never thought they were going that fast until they saw that sign. And that just kind of, you're always going to have the people that are going to, watch me get it up to 50, but you have a lot of people that it is a good reminder. And if nothing else, if it cuts 5 miles an hour down on everybody that's going down there as an average, it's a plus. So all I want to say is I will be pushing for that down in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other city council comments? I see none. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Alderwoman Daney. Second, Alderwoman Miller. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Bainey?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Mehevick?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
No. Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.